In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, August 28th, here in South Korea. As part of efforts to keep consumer prices steady ahead of the Chuseok celebration in mid-September, the government will supply local markets with 170,000 tons of much sought-after food products, including apples and cabbages. Also, on the local front, second quarter findings for this year show an annual jump in the number of newborns for the first time since the fourth quarter of 2015, as well as a record annual rise in the number of marriages for any given quarter. Meanwhile, on the international front, Ukraine is poised to unveil its four-part framework to end Russian aggression to the US in September, and the success of this framework is said to strongly depend on the latter's support. Korea's harvest celebration this year takes place in mid-September, and ahead of the upcoming autumn festivities, Finance Minister Chuseok has reaffirmed government plans to keep consumer prices steady by boosting supplies of popular food items to markets and more. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin starts us off this afternoon.
The South Korean government is planning to implement a series of measures to boost livelihoods and spending during the upcoming Korean Thanksgiving holiday, Chuseok. Measures including providing tax incentives and increasing supply were discussed during an economic ministerial meeting headed by Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on Wednesday.
Due to the heat wave, the prices of agricultural products and other essential items remain high, and the recovery of domestic consumption is relatively slow, making it difficult for households to feel that the economy is improving. In response, the government has developed a plan that focuses on stabilizing prices and improving livelihood.
To help stabilize prices, the government will supply 170,000 tons of the 20 most in-demand Chuseok items, including cabbages and apples, the largest ever amount for a Chuseok holiday. It will also slash import tariffs for 10 types of fruits such as bananas and pineapples by extending tariff rate quotas to the end of the year. The quotas were due to expire at the end of next month. In an effort to boost spending in traditional markets, the government is aiming to raise the income tax deduction rate for credit card usage from the current 40% to 80% in the second half of the year. And to increase usage of onuri gift certificates, which can be used in traditional markets, the limit on the amount allowed to be purchased will be raised from the current 1.5 million won, or around $1,100 to $1,500. This comes as consumer prices, a key gauge of inflation in July, rose 2.6% on year, up from the 2.4% increase the previous month on the back of high fruit prices. And in line with the Yoon administration's continued focus on helping small businesses, the government plans to provide loans and other financial support amounting to a whopping $32 billion to SMEs. Along with these measures, the government plans to launch a pan-governmental task force to manage prices and bring them down to the levels seen in 2021. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Findings for the second quarter of this year fueling cautious optimism as they show a tangible uptick on year in the number of couples tying the knot and the number of babies born. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun reports.
Some positive news regarding the country's population crisis as the number of marriages and births surged in the second quarter of 2024. Data from Statistics Korea on Tuesday showed that the total number of births between April and June this year came to just under 57,000, an increase of 1.2% compared to the same period last year. It's the first time since the fourth quarter of 2015 that the number of births in South Korea has grown year on year by quarter. The number of births in June recorded an all-time low for the month of June, but the number of births in April and May saw a rise, which is what led to the overall increase for the second quarter. There were also more marriages in the same period this year, with just under 56,000 between April and June, which is an increase of more than 17% compared to the second quarter of 2023. This is the largest year-on-year jump in the number of marriages for any quarter. A spokesperson from Statistics Korea attributed the surge in the number of births and marriages to not only a backlog caused by COVID-19 restrictions, which meant weddings were delayed, but also to various efforts from the Yoon administration to tackle the population crisis with benefits for married couples. But it could be too soon to celebrate just yet. Last year, the total fertility rate, which is defined as the average number of children that are born to a woman in her lifetime, hit a record low of 0.72. In the second quarter of 2024, the total fertility rate came to 0.71, which is the same as in the second quarter of 2023. When comparing the total number of births from January to June this year and last year, the number for this year fell by more than 3,000. The population also saw a natural decline of 8,700 in June, bigger than the figure for June 2023. Natural decline is calculated by subtracting the number of deaths from the number of births, and the country has seen a natural decline in the population since November 2019. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, over at the Parliament as we speak, in what is expected to be the first bipartisan accord of the current National Assembly, lawmakers are preparing to vote on the so-called livelihood bills to improve people's daily lives. A plenary session this afternoon will vote on a set of negotiated bills, including one that offers tangible support to victims of rental scams. Also added to the agenda just this morning are changes to the Nursing Act to provide the legal basis for medical practice by specialized physician assistants. A special delegation from the Czech Republic will reportedly arrive here in Seoul next week for nuclear power and industrial cooperation talks. Now, this is according to local media citing government sources on this Wednesday. The visit follows the Czech Republic's selection in July of a consortium led by Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power as the preferred bidder for the construction of 2 nuclear reactors in a project worth 24 trillion Korean won or $18 billion. This upcoming agenda also comes amid an appeal by U.S. nuclear power company Westinghouse and French utility company EDF against the Czech Republic's decision. Westinghouse claims the Korean entity does not own the technology to build the plants, while EDF has found fault with the transparency of the bidding process. Ukraine is poised to unveil its 4-part framework to end Russian aggression to the U.S. in September on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. And the success of this particular framework is said to strongly depend on the latter's support. Our An Sung-jin reports.
Ukraine wants to end the war with Russia, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy seeks to do so by presenting to the U.S. a victory plan which will force Russia to end the war.
It will be fair to present this plan to the U.S. President. The success of this plan depends on him, whether we will get what is in this plan or not, whether we will have freedom to use the things prescribed by the plan or not.
While speaking at a forum on Tuesday, Zelenskyy added that he will present this plan in September during a meeting with Biden and will also convey it to Biden's 2 potential successors, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Zelenskyy also noted how the recent operation in the Kursk region in Russia is a part of this plan. Ukraine's Kursk Oblast operation intended to divert Russian military forces from other areas, especially offensives in eastern Ukraine, such as Pokrovsk, a key hub with crucial railway station. According to the commander-in-chief Alexander Syrsky, Russia has deployed 30,000 troops to the Kursk region, and the number is growing. During the same forum, Zelenskyy also announced that Ukraine carried out its first test of a domestically made ballistic missile, though further details could not be provided.
There was successful test of the first ballistic Ukrainian missile, and I congratulate defense industry with this fact.
Though ballistic missiles have been used against Russia, they had been provided by the U.S. rather than built domestically. Meanwhile, Russia's air attacks on Ukraine have been continuing since early this week, causing casualties and blackouts across the country. Russian drone and missile attacks targeted multiple regions in Ukraine on Tuesday, killing at least 6 people. And as Kyiv's incursion into the Kursk region continues, IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi stated on Tuesday that Russia's Kursk nuclear power plant was at serious risk of a nuclear accident due to its fragility. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And in the U.S., Republican Party presidential candidate Donald Trump has finally agreed to a television debate with his Democratic counterpart and Vice President Kamala Harris that will air on ABC News Live come September 10th. Our Lee Jae has the latest.
The last time former U.S. President Donald Trump took part in a televised debate was in June against U.S. President Joe Biden. With Biden struggling in that debate, Trump's chances of winning the November election rose. Months later, Trump has agreed to another televised debate. However, this time, he is looking at a completely different opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. Taking to his social media platform Truth Social on Tuesday, Trump said he has agreed to take part in the televised debate hosted by ABC News against Harris on September 10th, but under the condition that the rules are the same as those enforced in CNN's June debate. Reiterating the previous rules, Trump said the debate will be held with both candidates standing up without pre-written notes. He called for a fair and equitable debate with no questions being given in advance to either side. However, the Trump and Harris camps continued to argue over whether to allow the muting of microphones during the September debate. Trump's campaign insists that each candidate should have their microphones muted when it's not their turn to speak, as was the case in June. However, the Harris campaign believes that the microphones should be open throughout the debate to allow viewers to hear if Trump interrupts or talks over the vice president. The debate is scheduled to be held in Philadelphia and will be moderated by David Muir and Lindsay Davis from ABC News. The September 10th debate was initially set to take place between Trump and Biden before the incumbent dropped out of the race. Lee Jae, Arirang News.
Staying in the U.S., the Pentagon says it is taking the threat of North Korea's suicide attack drones seriously. Speaking to members of the media on Tuesday, Press Secretary Pat Ryder said the U.S. will keep an eye on the development of such drones. In response to inquiries about a response to the risks posed by Pyongyang, Ryder reaffirmed Washington's commitment to working with its allies and partners to promote security. Also, across the border, North Korea has unveiled what appears to be an upgraded version of its 240mm multiple rocket launcher. According to the regime's media on this Wednesday, Kim Jong-un on Tuesday oversaw the test firing of the weapon with a new guidance system. And the report claimed the test verified that the weapon's enhanced performance, that the weapon had enhanced performance, that is. Back in February, North Korea announced that it had developed a new 240mm multiple rocket launcher with guidance capabilities, and in May declared that the weapon would be deployed between 2024 and 2026. In other news, the families of South Korean victims of Japan's wartime forced labor have won a damages lawsuit against a Japanese company. The Gwangju District Court on Tuesday ruled in favor of 9 family members of 6 South Korean victims against Mitsubishi Materials. The court ordered the Japanese company to pay some 16 to 100 million Korean won per victim. Many Koreans were subject to forced labor by Mitsubishi Mining, currently known as Mitsubishi Materials, during Japan's colonial rule over Korea. Asia's largest marketplace for broadcast content has opened doors here in capital Seoul for its 24th edition, and our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin was there to take a look.
We're living in a world overflowing with content, from movies and TV shows to streaming originals. In this vast sea, the demand for Korean content is at an all-time high, as Emmy-winning actor Lee Jung-jae, known for Netflix's Squid Game and The Acolyte on Disney+, puts it.
When I walk into a hotel abroad, staff who recognize me no longer just mention Squid Game, but ask about the latest Korean dramas, movies, or variety shows. Sometimes ones I haven't even seen yet. On set, it's even more intense with questions about directors, writers, and actors.
The global rise of K-content is driven by talented content creators, but it's equally important to have platforms that bring their work to the world. This is where Broadcast Worldwide, or BCWW, plays a leading role. So this year's Broadcast Worldwide, also known as the International Broadcasting and Video Market, is the largest in scale in its 24-year history. Now this year, more than 270 companies from 13 countries have gathered here in Seoul to discuss potential business opportunities.
After a COVID-19 hiatus, we held the event in person last year, securing over $80 million in contracts. With more global buyers here this year, we expect even better results.
For K-content, BCWW is a gateway to the global stage. This production company won the grand prize at this year's BCWW New Media Content Awards for its 2023 drama, Not Others, which has been exported to the Americas, Europe, and Japan.
We participate in BCWW every year to showcase our dramas to overseas buyers. The event has been instrumental in helping Korean dramas expand beyond domestic audiences and reach international markets.
For overseas companies, it's an opportunity to break into the Korean market. This content distribution company based in Istanbul recently signed a deal to release one of its movies in Korean theaters by 2025. They're hoping to land more deals at this event.
This will also open some doors for us for further licensing. Because, first, if a content has never been licensed in a region, then the broadcasters can be a little bit, can hesitate a little bit to invest on that project.
Providing an opportunity for both domestic and overseas content to broadcast worldwide, BCWW 2024 runs until Thursday. 송유진, Arirang News.
In our interview segment today, we shed light on prospects of promoting stronger partnership between Korea and Azerbaijan, as seen by the latter's presidential envoy for special assignments. Our foreign affairs correspondent Peun-ji has details.
Azerbaijan, which has had diplomatic relations with South Korea for over 30 years, plays a crucial role in connecting Asia and Europe. This is because the so-called Middle Corridor, a trade route that cuts through Central Asia, passes through Azerbaijan. This path has been gaining more importance after the northern route, one of the most popular global shipping routes that passes through Russia, has become increasingly unreliable. The Azerbaijan president's representative for special assignments, who visited South Korea as part of efforts to explore new opportunities in bilateral cooperation, suggests that Korean transport operators and logistics companies use these trade benefits, and has hopes of expanding the economic cooperation to produce green energy.
I think that we can diversify the portfolio of our energy cooperation by adding their renewables, because Azerbaijan has an enormous potential in renewable sources of energy like wind and solar and hydropower.
At the same time, he also urged South Korea to support Azerbaijan's peace process, as the country has long been in conflict with Armenia over an area that is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but has been controlled by ethnic Armenians for decades.
As a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, and being an important player in international affairs, the Republic of Korea, by supporting the peace agenda, which is promoted by Azerbaijan today, can make an important contribution so that this peace is finally achieved.
Other than economic and security issues, he highlighted the importance of cultural exchanges and increasing tourism opportunities, adding that establishing direct flights between the two countries could be a way to get this started. Peun-ji, Arirang News.
Let's move on to the world now. We start off in Mexico, where on Tuesday local time, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador called for a pause in diplomatic relations with the embassies of the US and Canada, not the countries, after their ambassadors criticized Obrador's proposed judicial reform. The reform, which aims to elect judges and Supreme Court justices by popular vote, recently passed a key committee in Mexico's lower house. The US Embassy, in diplomatic note, expressed significant concerns about the impact of electing judges. Canada's Ambassador Graham Clark also raised concerns about how this reform could affect investment in Mexico. Proponents argue the reform will strengthen democracy, while critics warn it could consolidate executive power and expose the judiciary to criminal influence. The Israeli military announced Tuesday that its special forces had recovered an Israeli hostage from a tunnel in southern Gaza. An IDF spokesperson provided few details other than that the operation had freed 52-year-old man Qaid Farin al-Qaidi, a member of the Bedouin community in southern Israel, after more than 10 months of being held captive. Al-Qaidi, who worked as a security officer at the kibbutz near the Gaza border, was among the more than 250 people abducted when armed members of the militant group Hamas launched an attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, which also left over 1,200 dead. He is the 8th hostage to be rescued since then, but 108 Israeli and foreign hostages remain in Gaza, with about a third of those confirmed dead. A Greek-flagged oil tanker is still on fire in the Red Sea after being attacked last Friday by Yemen's Houthi militants. The tanker, named Soyunion, carrying 1 million barrels of crude oil, is now leaking oil. Efforts proposed by the US to salvage the ship have been hindered, with the Houthis threatening to attack rescue tugs. This is the third vessel operated by Delta tankers targeted this month as the Houthis continue their attacks on ships near Yemen, citing solidarity with Palestinians in the Israel-Hamas conflict. German cyclist Eric Fedko performs an amazing stunt on a bike ramp elevated above the trees at Green Hill Bike Park in the Sauerland Mountains in Germany. The cyclist, who is well known in the global slope-style mountain biking community, launched himself from a 3.2-meter high tree trunk on top of the platform. Fedko said that the mental part of the stunt came down to the conditions such as shaky and windy weather, and also the height. Luckily for Fedko, the conditions were perfect, making for a beautiful backdrop for his latest achievement. Walter Lee, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The capital area had a long-awaited autumn-like morning. However, Jeju had another hot night, waking up to the longest number of tropical nights so far at 44. But afternoon temperatures should be 1 to 5 degrees higher in most parts of Korea. Now, Typhoon Shanshan is heading towards southwestern Japan and is causing high seas and typhoon alerts for parts of the South and East Sea. So those planning to travel to Japan might want to double-check your flight or ferry schedules for any updates. Meanwhile, easterly winds will bring downpours to the east coast and Jeju Island, with a heavy rain warning being issued for the island. Jeju could see up to 100 millimeters. The east coast could see 10 to 80 millimeters of heavy showers until Friday. However, central inland areas should stay mostly sunny all day, with a high of 33 degrees Celsius here in the capital and over in Daejeon. And it seems like we'll have a repeat of today's weather forecast for the next 5 days. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That brings us to the end of Wednesday's afternoon newscast. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session.